Hello everyone and welcome to One Word. I'm your host Kyle Fisher. By now you know how this works, so let's get to the hat. And today's one word is passion. Now passion is one of the biggest predictors of success or failure, happiness or sadness, or whether your life is in your control or whether life controls you. So let's see what Webby can add to passion. Webby says that passion is a strong feeling of enthusiasm or excitement for something or about doing something. Sorry about that little typo here, so let me do that one more time. Passion, a strong feeling of enthusiasm or excitement for something or about doing something. Now, we all know that that's true and that passion really determines how well you do things. In fact, we're going to be doing a seminar probably in the next month or two about creative motivation. And that's one of the things that the motivation gurus talk about, how important it is to have passion in your life. Now, going to story time, I'm going to talk to you about, I was on a trip this weekend to the Finger Lakes region of New York. And I met a winemaker by the name of Johannes, and he really embodies what passion really means. So the story goes like this. My buddy and I have gone up there for about 20 years. For about the last 10 to 12 years, we've really been into wine tasting. Now, if you know anything about the Finger Lakes region, it is probably the best Riesling area in the United States and probably just behind the Mosel region of Germany, probably the best region in the world for Riesling. So since we've been there 8, 10, 12 years, we kind of know the spots to go. So we were going to this winery named Hermann J. Weimer. Now, if you know anything about wine, Hermann J. Weimer probably is the best Riesling spot in the United States. It's been a winery of the year like 7 out of the last 8 years from Wine and Spirits. It has had several wines in Wine Enthusiast's top 100 wines in the world. Fantastic. All the pros rate a lot of their best Rieslings between 92 and 94 points. That's a huge score for a Riesling, especially for the price that they have. So we're going to the tasting and talking about these things, and the lady that was serving us said, "Have you guys been to Kemeter?" And we're like, "No." And she's like, "Well, you guys know what you're doing, obviously, the way that you swirl the glasses and smell and all that. That's what wine pros do." I know, and I'm sure that my wife's going to get a picture of me going. So anyway, back to the story. So she talked about, you got to go and meet this winemaker named Johannes. We're like, okay, well, where is it? Well, it's about 3 or 4 minutes down the road. So we go down the road and there's this big, long gravel driveway. And it's a big sign that says, by appointment only. So my buddy's like, you're calling, we're getting in here. So I proceed to call. Don't have great cell service because we're in the middle of nowhere. But I get a recording. So I'm like, dude, I don't know whether we're going to be able to do this. He's like, you're some success guru. Just talk your way in there. So we drive up. And we get in the parking lot, and there's these two really small, almost look like barns, but they're really tiny. One of them was the size that looked like a tool shed. So we get out of the car, and this guy comes walking up, and he's like, "Can I help you?" in a real thick German accent. And I said, "You must be Johannes." Introduced myself, my friend, told him that we were told to come here. We were at Hermann J. Weimer, and they recognized you as a great winemaker. And he's like, "Well, you guys are in luck because typically we just do appointment only, so we only take 6 people at a time." He had 3 people in there. He said, "You guys can come in and join us." So we get in there, and this place literally is the size of a master bedroom. I kid you not. It was so small. It's one of the smallest places I've ever been. And just had this little bar and had 4 bottles sitting on the table. And so he talks about that we're going to be here for an hour. And I'm like, what? Because most of these things, if you've ever done wine tasting, it's high turnover, high volume. You know, you want to get out of there, pay your fee, and then get out of there so they can make more money. So for the next hour, this guy talks about each of his 4 wines, took 10 or 15 minutes. And it was just unbelievable, just the knowledge and the passion this guy had, that his goal was, I want to make the best Riesling in New York and not make a dime. And I'm like, what are you talking? What? He's like, the passion that I have, that this is what I was put on this earth to do. He proceeded to talk about a wine for 15 minutes about why it tastes the way that it did, because the soil was 15 inches deep. So what does that mean? It's going to be rocky. You're going to have those minerals. Why does this have more apple? Well, Kyle, interesting question. It's because it gets 30 more minutes of sunlight than it does at the other vineyard that we have. He had 4 different wines that tasted completely different, and the vineyards were like 4 miles away. And it was just unbelievable, the passion that this guy had, which is kind of, in the wine business, you kind of get 2 schools of thought. Either try to make a lot of money, or it's kind of a small time, just trying to get by. The difference with this guy, with Johannes, was that the quality of his wine was phenomenal. And he gave so much of himself and answered every single question about, who's going to like this wine? How much residual sugar does it have? All these kind of wine terms that may not seem interesting, but it was fascinating in the sense that this guy knew as much about his craft as anybody I've ever met talking about anything. And so we get done with this tasting after an hour. We only had 4 glasses of wine. Well, glasses, probably an ounce pour each, which is pretty good for tastings, but we could have stayed there all day. So we get to the end, and the guy's like, well, there's no tasting fee. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, all I ask is that my wife and I support this family in India. And, explained about how he's trying to build a school and all that. Can you give your tasting fee to donate to them? Well, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So naturally, my buddy and I gave a nice tasting fee. Then we proceeded to buy like 6 bottles of wine there. But the point was that the thing that really got us was this guy had life figured out for him. And it was this passion, that he could spend all day, all he wanted to do was make wine, be with his wife, and try to make the best wine for his customers that was possible. He had told us that he had ripped up 30 acres of grapes. That was 1/3 of his grapes, because they didn't meet his standard. And he talked about how much money that he was going to lose, but that it wasn't about money. That for him, he had to be able to be passionate about what he was doing and to be able to give the best quality wine that he could. And he's getting there. I think his vineyard's about 3 years old. Give this guy about 5 years, and this stuff is going to be absolutely phenomenal. So that's my story about Johannes, a tremendous guy. We will see you next year, Johannes, and we will definitely call ahead and make sure we have reservations. So our quote for the day, and it kind of makes me think about Johannes and just a lot of people that have influenced me, and it's this: passion is the gas in your car. Without it, you ain't going anywhere. So let me get my little pen here. Pink today, nice. So passion is the gas in your car. Without it, you ain't going anywhere. And so that really means that a lot of times you can look at a lot of different things with a car. And it has all these fancy components, and you can have all this stuff done. But if you have no gas in your car, you're not doing anything. And I think that's the thing about passion. You've got to have passion in every single thing that you do. If you don't have it, you can have all the knowledge, you can have all the skills, you can have all the support. And a lot of us have that. What a lot of us miss, and why we don't achieve what we should, we don't have the passion. And I think that's one of the things when we get into some of the seminars, and we're going to be doing a video probably in the next week or two to talk about the seminars that we're going to be doing. That's going to be one of the biggest things that we really try to help everybody with. Just like Johannes wants to make the best wine for each of his customers, what we want to do is try to find the passion that you have in your life so we can match that with your goals, with your time, so you can in fact produce and have the type of life that you really want to. Well, that's all the time that we have today for One Word. And remember, with all of you and a little bit of me, we're going to change how the world performs. We'll see you next time on One Word.